Hey guys, welcome back. So the last time we did a comparison video, we got a really great response from you guys. And last time was the 599 GTO versus the XX car, which had a very direct connection. Now the two cars behind me are both very limited edition Ferrari examples, both front engine V12 open top cars, but they really speak more to the relationship of a design house and how it honors its own lineage. So I'm standing here between two Ferraris that were designed with the same design philosophy, but have two very different valuations. The Ferrari Daytona Spyder at $3 million versus the 550 Barchetta at around $800,000. So the question is why? The two cars sitting behind me very much speak to a design philosophy that spans over 60 years of Pininfarina's partnership with Ferrari. We don't really see a lot of these. This is a 1971 Ferrari Daytona Spyder. Very limited run at the time, about 122 cars produced, and really signified a golden era for Ferrari with the front engine V12 open top design. Because of its limited availability, there was actually a whole run of design houses and coach builders that started to do conversions. So there's, I think, something like 100 or so extra cars that are considered chopped cars, which were started life as coupe and were chopped as convertibles. What's really interesting about the Daytona convertible setup is it was, obviously it's analog, it's early 70s, but what it gave the Ferrari owner at the time was this GT Grand Tourer feel that wasn't really obvious in a lot of the other design models. Those were more race derived, those were a little bit more extreme. This is more of your road car, very much with an analog feel. And then if you see what Pininfarina does on their 70th anniversary is they really call back to the inspirations from the Ferrari Daytona. So you have another long hood V12, open top, albeit the interpretation is more modern drive, but staying very true to what we would call heritage design. Back in the early 70s, Ferrari designs the Daytona Spyder off of the coupe, and it's very much an homage to a golden era for Ferrari versus what the interpretation was for the late 90s, which would have been, again, kind of a long hood V12 GT, but something that was a little bit more comfortable at high speeds, a little more connected, a little bit more driver oriented, as you can see by some of the helmets that get provided with the cars. Only the Euro cars have the helmets, by the way. But both give you that same kind of analog open GT feel. I think what's interesting for the 550 Barchetta and what a lot of people overlook is this may have been their last true kind of analog interpretation. As the cars became more advanced, the design philosophy becomes more extreme as Ferrari and Pininfarina split with the F12. LaFerrari, as we know, would be the first full Ferrari design. And then that lineage takes off, and now Ferraris have become a little more tech heavy, still great driving cars, designs are a little bit more extreme. But when you look at what Pininfarina was trying to communicate to the world at the time with these two cars is that, hey, we understand our heritage. It's a little bit less overt than, say, the 12 cylinder is to the Daytona. I mean, that's very much a direct homage to that car. But when you have design house thinking like Pininfarina, I think you have to really look at it and say, yeah, I could see the comparisons, but why? Why would there be these vastly different valuations? I think as we start to see the curve change a little bit and values increase on more utility-based exotics from the 90s and early 2000s, there's a little bit of a lull or a valley in the 70s and late 60s cars, but Daytonas and cars like the 275 4Cam continue to increase in value because I think the design is so ageless. The intention of the car is something that kind of transmutes into even buyers of today. There's only 122 cars. Again, there was a little bit less of a demographic of buyers at the time, but the world ends up getting smaller and the buyers group gets bigger. So 448 example versus 122. I think if you look at the market today, it's probably about the same as far as availability of buyer versus production numbers. So why the difference? Again, if you listen to our podcast, I think we've talked about these cars extensively. Both John and I love these cars. We think they're incredibly undervalued at the moment, and they're just about to turn 25 years old, which means that all the rest of the world cars will become available to everyone, meaning that as the American cars are all kind of been bought up, or the good ones have, now you can start bringing cars in from Europe. And I think that's going to begin to move the market, which is something we've seen already. So when do I see this car becoming $3 million? Well, it's taken almost 50 years for this car to kind of move up through those ranks. I don't think it's going to take quite that long. I think next year we probably cross into $1 million plus for the good examples. And I think a 5-10 year mark on these cars will be firmly between $1.5 million, $2 million. So while there may be a big price difference right now, I think the age to accomplish those numbers will be shorter on the 550 Barchetta. And again, it's about driving feel and experience. The Daytona Spyders are, big engine, long hood. They feel heavy, they feel big. They're pretty fast once they get going. They're pretty notchy shifting feel, but I think that's the intention of the car. The 550 Barchetta is going to be a little bit more related to it, but I think at that time you have a much better baseline car. It's a front engine V12, but they drive incredibly well. I mean, I've driven 550 Barchettas and coupes many times, and I got to tell you, it has a very much of a modern feel. You don't feel as if you're fighting the car. The cars feel light, they feel nimble, they're actually really fast. And the shifting feel is great. It's smoother, as you would imagine for a modern car to be, but you still have a connected, gated feel that kind of has become the draw for these cars. I know a lot of times we do these videos, we forget the most important thing. We don't open up the hood and show you the power plant, but in this car, it's a thing of beauty. It really was. If you look at it, it's every bit as much artwork as the rest of the car is. This car had a 4.4 liter V12 making 352 horsepower, which was pretty respectable for its time. Like I said, these cars kind of had to get up and go before they got moving, but they were pretty quick. And it's a fantastic engine. This is a restored car and a really great example. Walking over to the 550 Barchetta, it's a 5.5 liter. These are about 485 horsepower. Again, these cars were quick. I mean, they were fast accelerating. They were super smooth. Again, this is a fantastic engine. It kind of carried on through most of the modern V12 designs. For the customer that wants something that's an actual grand touring feel, something that you could drive every day, and something that on the highway it has an incredible power band. I really love the 550s, and I think these cars will begin to become appreciated by drivers more and more as we get a little bit more electronic and a little bit more hybrid. A callback to this age, I think, is the pinnacle for mechanical V12s for Ferrari. So if you wanted to have the ideal Ferrari collection and you had an endless wish list, I think having the Daytona Spyder and 550 Barchetta in the collection is a must. It's a callback to, I think, the heyday in Pininfarina, and represented what their interpretation of the golden era of driving would be, which would be your front engine V12 open top cars. I love both cars. I'm a little bit more partial to the 550 Barchetta. But again, if you have to have the ultimate collection, I think having both of these cars in your collection is a must. If you like these comparison videos and you want to see more, don't forget to like and subscribe. And thanks for joining us.